ngoro dzomoto dzauya vakomana hondo yajehovha watinonamata ngoro dzinopatsanura kururama nekusarurama ngoro
I have a few questions for our government, but before I ask, let me say this in the interest of full disclosure. I'm a Zimbabwean, and I spend most of my time out of the country. I travel home frequently, and I have mobilized support for Zimbabwean communities, including building classrooms, donating textbooks, and thousands of shoes to school children in all the provinces of our country as part of our Shoes for National Healing program. The program was launched to coincide with the inception of the Government of National Unity in 2009 and was immediately adopted by the Organ for National Healing as a critical strategy to bring Zimbabweans together to work towards the common good. Events for the program brought together ordinary citizens, clergy, business people, government and civic leaders, and were sanctioned by the presidency and the office of the Prime Minister, Morgan Tsvangirai. My friends and I even mobilized investment in Zimbabwe, starting 2 companies to support our economy and to play our part to create much-needed jobs for our people. I say all that to say I'm not one of those Zimbabweans who has not been engaged and who has not sometimes to a fault given our leaders the benefit of the doubt out of a desire to build bridges. I'm also old enough to know that there were legitimate reasons for the armed struggle and that the main reason was for all of us to be free. In 2008, President Robert Mugabe declared, "Zimbabwe is mine." He did not stop there. He continued, and I quote, "I am a Zimbabwean, Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans." He did not say Zimbabwe for those who belong to ZANU-PF only, but Zimbabwe for Zimbabweans. So I ask these questions because I believe, like the president, that Zimbabwe is also mine. I also ask because I am totally perplexed by the response of the government when Zimbabweans dare to express their pain and challenge the decisions made by leaders. So here is my first question. Could the government clarify the meaning of patience? What is it that makes government officials believe that the people who wait dutifully in line for what they're entitled to even, and I'm talking about teachers, doctors, and nurses who go for months without receiving their salaries, but still dutifully report for work? What is it that makes government leaders think that these people are impatient? Who really is undermining the revolution and making the sacrifices of those who lost their lives for the cause of independence worthless? When is it going to be shameful for our diplomats to have their phones disconnected and the staff at our foreign missions to go unpaid and some to be evicted from their homes? Why does it make sense to insist that we should have foreign missions that we cannot afford? Why is common economic sense this uncommon to our government? So here's another question. Why is it difficult for government to understand that when local industries are pretty much dead, people will find alternative ways to meet their needs, such as cross-border trading, and that abrupt changes in government policies cause undue hardship? When investors have had thefts in their companies, and I know this from experience, they encounter corrupt policemen who demand bribes and a system where dockets routinely disappear and cases are never resolved. Why are government leaders surprised that normal people will not want to invest in such a climate? We have heard so many times about Boramgedi. The question is, which goal? Our leaders have been scoring on goals for such a long time. We've all become confused about which one is the opponent's goal and which one is ours. So So when government does not reward real economy and business experience, and yet expects the many highly educated and experienced citizens who are outside to engage and come and invest, and they don't, that's an on goal. When our leaders rail against foreign capital while trying to attract FDI and investors don't respond, that is an on goal. When government allows corrupt leaders who run parastatals to the ground and ministers who mysteriously amass unholy amounts of wealth to get away with it, while victimizing entrepreneurs like Strive Masiwa and others and practically running them out of the country, that is an on goal. I can predict the response by some people in government to these questions, because the response of our government to anything that the citizens do has become very, very predictable. Manyika uya azopanduka manje, and all this is foreign sponsored. You know, I find it to be a terrible insult by our leaders that the only way Zimbabweans can express their outrage at things which are clearly irrational and irresponsible is if a foreigner points it out to them. What does it mean to be foreign sponsored anyway? So when our government goes to the IMF looking for balance of payment support, are they not looking for foreign sponsorship? The loans we have been looking for from China and other places, that is foreign sponsorship. Now, the liberation struggle itself received sponsorship from foreign individuals, groups, and countries that were sympathetic to our cause. Does that mean it was not legitimate? I will tell you what has gotten to me this time, and something I cannot keep quiet about. It's watching the video of a man on the ground being beaten with long sticks by a bunch of savages in police uniform. Now, this is by far not the worst that has happened over the years to Zimbabweans who have dared to speak to express their pain. During one of our national healing events, I think in 2011, I attended a meeting with some of the core ministers of national healing where we saw people bearing the scars of horrendous acts of violence. At a subsequent meeting with the late Vice President John Como, he assured me that the reasons for the existence of the organ was to ensure that things like that never happen again. Now, it gives me no joy to be speaking to the generation of my fathers, many of whom served this country and served it well. But I want to say this to them. Perhaps your voices were heard. But I also happen to know that there are many of you whose voices are no longer being heard. As for us, our voices were never heard. My generation cannot continue being neutral or diplomatic if we are going to be respected by our children and the next generation. Which brings me to Pastor Mawarire and all these young people who have reason to express their pain. What chances are there that they would even be listened to? This can no longer be their challenge alone. And I say this to the generation of my fathers. It has to be your struggle too. I say this as respectfully as you were when you were telling your fathers that it was right to challenge colonialism. It was right to demand change. I want to go on record and say Pastor Mawarire is absolutely right. And that as a fellow Zimbabwean, I am going to take a stand to support his right to question our leaders and to even demand change. I've always believed that the Zimbabwean flag is my flag. But I want to declare as forcefully as I can that it is time for our leaders to also understand and respect the fact that Zimbabwe is mine too.
The chariots of fire, the host of heaven,